Thank you so much for participating in these virtual cooking classes. Your support goes such a long way right now. It's great that we can all get together and all come together in a unique, new way. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. So before we get started in tonight's cooking class, we have a couple of housekeeping notes for you guys. To get the highest definition Trevor Bird and food photography in your kitchen, you're going to want to make sure you're on 1080p. Lower right-hand corner on a Mac or a PC, there's a little gear icon. Click on that, pick 1080p. On a mobile phone or an iPad, 3 dots, upper right-hand corner, click on that, 1080p. Right to the right here, there's a chat box. I will be in there live with you, so if you have any questions at all, any concerns, need to be coached, that's where I'm going to be, and I'm going to be trying to engage with you guys so that you can put all your questions and concerns in there. Underneath is the comment section. Once this stream is over, if you have any questions based on this class, you can throw them in there, and we'll monitor them regularly, so we'll answer them. You're going to want to have a couple of things in your kitchen for this class. 1 is olive oil, and 2 is cooking oil. Olive oil is not cooking oil. If all you have is olive oil, we're gonna make it work, and that's okay. But for cooking oil, we could use veg oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, corn oil, peanut oil, anything with a very high smoking point. We generally don't want to use olive oil because it has a bit of a lower smoking point. The other thing you're going to want to use is kosher salt. I use Diamond Crystal kosher salt right here. I've been using it for 20 years. It has the best grain, the best flavor. So when you see me dump it all over the food and you think, man, that's a lot of salt, it's because it's this salt. Try not to use iodized salt. But if that's all you have, you can, just don't use as much of it. The point of this class is to make you more confident and give you insider tips and tricks on how we run restaurants, how we cook for people, and how we can really make our food program in our house come together in a successful way. So we're here to make you confident in the kitchen. We're not here to stress you out. We're here to just grow ourselves, our cooking skills, and become better people because of it. With YouTube, it's fantastic because you can pause, you can rewind, you can fast forward at any point. If you feel like it's getting too much for you or you can't keep up, I'm a professional. I teach this class so I can cook very quickly. Bonus points if you can keep up, but if not, don't feel bad about it. Press pause, cook at your own pace. These classes are also going to teach you how to cook stress-free for yourself, for your family, and when we can again, for a whole whack load of people. So this is really to give you the skills you need to be better. Subscribe, hit like, and share us on your social media channels. Tag at Fable Kitchen and at Chef Trevor Bird, and we would appreciate that so, so much. With that all being said, let's get cooking. Welcome to the Badass Steak Cookery class. This class is going to teach you how to cook the absolute best steak you have ever cooked in your life, and I promise you by the end of this class, 95% of you will have just cooked the best steak you have ever cooked. It'll be so perfect. Any cookbook would take this as a picture for their front page. We're going to eat a 3-course meal, roasted pears, pecorino, walnuts, mushrooms, steak, really nice roasted potatoes, super easy to do, but it's just really good life skills to have on how to properly roast and season potatoes, cook a steak, and cook mushrooms properly. So with the steak cooking, this doesn't just apply to this steak, this applies to basically any protein you're gonna cook, chicken, fish, big pieces of meat, little pieces of meat, it doesn't matter. But this whole concept is called the reverse sear. So like a pan fry, braise, whatever you wanna call it, whatever different cooking techniques there are, a reverse sear is just one of those cooking techniques. So in our bag for today's class, we have some nice salad greens. We have Bartlett pears. This is 1 pear, but you have 2 pears. We have pecorino cheese, about 50 grams of that. We have a little bit of olive oil for a dressing for your salad. Whoop. We have grated Parmesan. We have a lemon, arugula for a nice lemon olive oil arugula salad with your steak, crushed walnuts, mixed mushrooms, which consist of chanterelles, king oyster, cremini, button, and gnocchis. Cooked fingerling potatoes. A jar of amazing Trevor Bird black pepper jam. And one beautiful 90-day dry-aged piece of striploin. A little bit of butter to cook that striploin with. And for dessert, some beautiful apple crisp that has already been made for you, but you have the recipe, super easy to make. This is my grandmother's recipe, and it is delicious. And definitely have some ice cream with this. So the first thing we're gonna do is cook our steak. So get your steak out of the bag. Once we have our steak out of the bag, we are going to season this liberally. This is a 11 to 12 ounce piece of striploin. So we're gonna take a nice big pinch of salt here, and we are absolutely gonna let it rain all over the steak. So you wanna almost have like a nice big crust of salt all over your steak. So season every side of the steak that you can. Tops, bottoms, sides, everywhere. Like I said, don't be shy. When anybody thinks, oh my God, that's so much salt, always know that that is why restaurant food tastes so good. So we're gonna season this steak really liberally. We're not gonna put any pepper on it because we have the black pepper jam, which is a punch in the mouth of pepper, so I wouldn't wanna overkill with pepper. With this steak, we are going to put it into an oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you don't have your oven set to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, that's okay. It is such a low temperature that your oven will preheat there within 3 minutes, whether it's the best oven or the worst oven. So when you turn your oven on, you're gonna need to turn your oven down. You don't turn it up, you turn it down to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is very, very low. That's like a warm bath almost. Like you could keep your hands in there on a cold day and be like, ah, this is warming my house so nicely. So once we have our steak really nicely seasoned with salt, we are just going to take a pan or a baking tray, anything that allows your steak to go into the oven. We're gonna put that in there. We're gonna take a little drizzle of oil. This here is grapeseed oil. We'll talk about oil later on in the class. We're just gonna put like maybe a tablespoon on top there, a teaspoon, and we're just gonna rub it all over the steak. So you just wanna keep it from completely drying out when we're cooking it, but we have it in there. And we are just going to place this in the 200 degree oven for anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. So let's get that going. Now that we have our steak in the oven, let's talk a little bit about that. So with the reverse sear, what we're doing is we're taking our window of error from very short if we were cooking it over high temperature to very long if we're cooking it over very low temperature. So when you're cooking a steak over a barbecue or you have a raw steak and you're trying to get it medium rare, you're constantly trying to monitor the outside temperature to the inside temperature. You want to let it rest so that the heat from the outside carries to the inside and become pretty finicky. You can undercook it, you can overcook it. If you haven't cooked thousands of pieces of meat before, it can get kind of challenging to actually get a perfectly cooked piece of meat. So what this whole concept is doing is teaching you how to absolutely nail a piece of meat, medium rare, perfectly every single time. And instead of having searing your steak, especially one as thick as we have, it would take about 20 to 30 minutes over super high heat, and you'd kind of be like, I don't know if it's cooking, I don't know where it's at. You'd kind of be probing it with a thermometer all the time. So with this, it takes all the guesswork out of cooking a steak. All we're doing is we're just letting it sit in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit from anywhere from half an hour to 2 hours. I'm not even gonna pay attention to the time. I'm just gonna teach this cooking class. And then whenever we're ready to eat, I'm gonna sear the steak. And so we sear the steak after it's cooked. So if you've ever heard of sous vide cooking, it's a very gentle, low and slow way of cooking. And as well, when we cut into this steak today, you're gonna see it. It's gonna be edge to edge, medium rare. So it's gonna be cooked perfectly from one end of that steak to the other. Like I said, I promise you, this is gonna be the most beautiful steak you have ever cooked, and you're gonna go, wow, I just learned something and I accomplished something today. So life skills, how to cook good steak. As well, it's going to allow the enzymes to get going, so it's actually gonna make the meat much more tender. So, you know, if you even have more time, you could turn your oven down to like 100 degrees Fahrenheit and leave it in there for 4 hours, and then it's gonna be even more tender and even better cooked. So the more time you have, the lower temperature you can go. And you can apply this to any kind of steak you have. If you have a striploin that's this thick or this thick, a completely huge tomahawk that's like 3 inches wide with a big bone on it, all we're doing is actually cooking it to medium rare, and then we're searing it afterwards. So stay tuned for that. Now we're just gonna get the rest of the class going here, because that is the first thing we need to do. That is the thing that's gonna take the longest as we start to prep everything else. So what we'll do first is roast some pears. So when we're roasting pears, this is a really straightforward, simple salad that I love making at my restaurant. I love making at home because cooked fruit is actually delicious. So we're gonna take our pears here and just cut them in half. And then cut them in half again, so you have a quarter of a pear. Just take off the tops of the stem. Now, you can call me weird, but I don't mind eating the pit of a pear. I actually eat the whole pear. I don't know why. I just don't see a point of throwing some of it out. So I'm not gonna core it, but if by any means, if you would like to take out the seeds and take out the core, you can do that right now just by cutting it as I am. So you'd have it like this, and you can cut out the core just like that. That being said, the core will cook down till it gets nice and soft. So this part will cook nice and soft, and we can just remove that very middle part afterwards. So we're just going to do that. So I'll do one of each here. And there we go. We have 8 pieces of pear. And now we are just going to, you know, your pears might not look like this, and that's okay. They might be a little bit smaller. These are fairly large pears. You know, I don't create all of the pears, so you might have a little bit bigger ones, a little bit smaller ones. So whatever it is, it's okay. The same concept will work for whatever you have. You could also roast apples like this. Nectarines are so good seared like this. So what we're gonna do is get a pan on medium-high heat. If you have a gas stove, that's 3/4 of the way full. And if you have an electric stove, you're looking at about 7 or 8. So you wanna get that going. So we have our pan on here. I have this pan on right here. We're going to add a little bit of grapeseed oil to the pan. And we're gonna add a little pinch of salt. And when I say a little pinch, let's go over something here. When we're doing pinches of salt, I have a 1 pinch, which is your thumb. I have a 2 pinch, which is 2 fingers, a 3 pinch plus your thumb, and a 4 pinch is all your fingers plus your thumb. So this is a 1 pinch, 2 pinch, 3 pinch, 4 pinch. So we're gonna put a 3 pinch into this pan, and that's going to season the pears as they cook. So whenever you're searing anything, you always want to wait until you see a little bit of smoke come off the pan. When you see a little bit of smoke come off the pan, that means it's nice and ready. Now I'm cooking on an absolutely beautiful stove here, so my pan's going to heat up fairly quickly. If yours doesn't take this long to heat up, that's okay. It might take a little bit longer. So you just want to put your pears in just whichever way They fit in there. Burning my arm hair off on this beautiful gas stove here. So we have all of our pears in. Now, once our pears are in and they're actually starting to cook, we're just gonna turn the heat down just a little bit. Because our oven is so low, we're not gonna roast these in the oven, but we're just gonna roast these on the stovetop the whole time. So as we're gonna get multitasking here, we're just gonna leave these pears cooking the whole time. So we're just gonna turn it over medium heat. So for medium heat, you are looking at number 5 on your electrical stove, or halfway, and just about halfway on your gas stove. Now you wanna keep it about there. You don't want it to burn, but you want the pears to consistently cook and caramelize. So we're gonna leave it there, and we're just, as that's going on, we're gonna start cooking all of our other stuff. So whenever we're cooking for a large group of people, we always wanna keep in mind what steps we're gonna take to make your day of more pleasurable and less stressful. And what I mean by that is make a menu, make your mise en place list, and by mise en place list it means put in place. So you want to try to get as many things done as you can so you're not super stressed out the day of. So, you know, you can have your meat like cut up like we do. You can do these pears up ahead of time, way ahead of time, so that they're already cooked and all you need to do is rewarm them in an oven. Just gonna check on these pears here. So you just want to keep your oven, the magical thing as well about keeping your oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit is amazing because it's like a holding oven. So if you already have your pears cooked, you can just rewarm them in a 200 degree oven. Now with a 200 degree oven, it won't overcook your food and it won't ruin the quality of your food. So whenever we make things hot, we can heat everything up, put it in a 200 degree oven, and then let it sit there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. And you can basically just hang out, drink a bottle of wine with your friends. So this cooking class is gonna be really stress-free where we're gonna cook everything. Once it's all cooked, we're gonna hold it in the oven with a steak. And then we're gonna sear the steak, and then we're gonna take everything out and serve it. And it's all gonna be really nice and hot. We're not gonna be stressed out, and we're just going to take it as it comes. Whether you're cooking for a large group of people once this thing is over, or if you're just cooking for your family at home or just yourself at home, these techniques work both ways. The whole thing is just taking stress out of your life. So it's kind of like the slow cooking method of the microwave, if you will, with higher quality. So let's go check out these pears. So with these guys here, my hands are pretty numb. So I don't know if you trust yourself to get near hot oil like this, but just check out your pears there. See where they're at. Show them some love. Move the pan around a little bit if you need to. And then just flip them on their other side to give the other sides a little bit of color. So I have a spoon here to help maneuver the pears around. I think one could use a little bit longer. This one looks nice and golden brown. We're gonna leave that there. This one looks nice and golden brown. Leave that there. That's nice and golden brown. So once we have these pears nice and roasted, we're just gonna throw them in that 200 degree oven to stay nice and warm. Again, that's pretty much what we're gonna do with everything that we cook tonight. This is the most stress-free cooking class you will ever have, and you'll be able to use all of these techniques going into your future for any dinner party you have. And that being said, let's just take our apple crisp right now and throw it in that oven, because it doesn't matter. It can be ready in 10 minutes, it can be ready in an hour. So take your apple crisp right now and give it a shot in the oven. I have to do that every time. I have to slide into the camera. How could you not resist that? So we have our pears roasting, we have our steak in the oven, and now we are going to cook our potatoes, cook our mushrooms, get those into the oven, and then we're gonna finish up our salad and start putting everything together. So, first thing we're gonna do here is we have our fingerling potatoes. What we're gonna do is crush these potatoes like this. You want a nice, big cooking surface area for these potatoes so they have a lot of opportunity to absorb some oil, get crispy, get all the nice golden brown edges on them. So we'll get that done. This is a very simple way to cook some amazing potatoes. So now these potatoes that I gave you are already cooked. Really easy. Boil the potatoes in some salted water. That's it, until a fork goes in and out really easily. Take them out, cool them down. That's all there is to it. So we're gonna go look at our pears one more time here. There we go. We got pears. We got roasting pears. There we go. So once our pears here are nice and golden brown on all edges, we're just gonna take them like this, and we're just gonna throw these guys in the 200-degree oven. So, lovely thing, we have our apple crisp in the oven because it can be in there for so long. We have our steak cooking in the oven. We have our pears in the oven. So as that's going on, we are going to cook our potatoes, cook our mushrooms. So what we want to do is get a pan that has a really big surface area. So here, I have a pan, probably I could fit 2 of my heads in there. So you want to try to find the biggest pan that you possibly have, and we'll talk about cooking mushrooms. So when we're gonna cook mushrooms first because we can cook our mushrooms and then throw them in the 200-degree oven. So we wanna cook our mushrooms, put them into a metal bowl of some kind. I'm going to use this bowl right here. You can use any kind of bowl you have available that will fit the mushrooms. It does not need to be this big, but we're just gonna cook the mushrooms, put them in the bowl, put the bowl in the oven. So, whenever you are cooking mushrooms, we are going to use this pan to cook the mushrooms and then the potatoes. So whenever you're cooking mushrooms, a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan, and you want a really hot pan. And when you cook the mushrooms, you want one single layer of mushrooms in the bottom of the pan. That's why we want such a large surface area. Same thing for searing the potatoes, or really searing anything. You want as much surface area as possible. So, again, we want to wait until this oil is smoking hot. When the oil is smoking hot, I'm going to teach you a technique to not burn your hands. So here we have a good amount of oil, large pan. Mushrooms are mixed mushrooms to the side. We're going to wait till that gets nice and warm. And then as soon as you start to see smoke come off the top, the best way to do this so you don't burn yourself or hurt yourself is tip the pan away from you so all the oil slides down. And then you want to put all of your product, whether that's going to be a piece of meat, some fish, some mushrooms, and you just want to place that in the pan up top, and then you let it slide into the oil. So that way you don't put any product into a whole bunch of oil and then have it splash everywhere, and then it burns and hurts, and you know, you don't really want to burn yourself. Hot oil is dangerous. A little bit of a cooking lesson here, safety lesson I should say, is a little bit of a safety lesson here is when you put oil into the pan, and if ever it lights on fire, the only thing you want to do is take it off the heat and put a lid on it. And don't look at it for 2 hours, at least, until it's nice and cool. If you've ever seen that movie Backdraft, it has potential to turn into a fireball, and I like my eyebrows and my eyelashes. So just take it off to the side, put a lid on it, and let it sit there. Now, I'm just seasoning my mushrooms with some salt. Go with a nice 3 pinch of salt. And you don't want to shake your pan too much. You just want to have your pan sitting there, roasting the mushrooms off really well. Maybe just give them like one toss every 2 or 3 minutes. You just want to get a nice sear on one side of the mushrooms. The other thing about mushrooms is that they shrink like crazy. So with these mushrooms, you get them in the pan, they're going to lose a bunch of moisture. They're going to shrink up, but that's okay. So we have these guys here, really high heat. I just found an even more appropriate bowl for the mushrooms. It's this guy, it's even smaller, so we're gonna cook off the mushrooms, put them in here. These are gonna go straight into the oven. There we go, we just give that a toss around. You can see how there's a nice sear on one side of these, and we're just gonna leave it again for another 2 or 3 minutes. And now you can use it, this is how you can cook every mushroom. Every mushroom gets cooked the same way. Not too much in a pan, a little bit of oil and salt. If you cook every mushroom like this, it will be delicious. This goes for any fancy mushrooms you find in the forest. Definitely know what you're doing if you're going foraging. Even if you ate a poisonous one like this, it would still taste really good. And then you would die a terrible, terrible death. So don't go foraging, but just a little bit of oil, some salt, and you're always going to win with mushrooms. So the other thing is you don't need to cook them for long. You know, the most amount of time that a mushroom should cook for is maybe 5 minutes, 2 minutes searing each side, but you definitely, like a lot of resilient mushrooms like king oyster mushrooms, really meaty ones, lobster mushrooms, those go really, really well with like a good hard sear. And they even go really well in braises because they can hold their shape and stand up for so long. So we have our mushrooms here. We have a nice sear on them. And we are just going to take our mushrooms and we're just going to put them into our bowl or whatever we're going to keep them in. So tricks of the trade here. So we have our mushrooms in a bowl. Now these mushrooms can go straight into the oven at 200 degrees and they can hang out there for anywhere from 10 minutes to 1 hour. So tricks of the trade. You know, when we're working in fancy restaurants, what we do is we pre-cook all the food. So whenever you're getting the meal, it's not like we're cooking everything a la minute for you because mushrooms do shrink so much. And when we're cooking a busy service for many people, we can't keep that many mushrooms online. So what we'll do is we'll pre-cook them so they shrink a lot and then we just reheat them for you, much like we do with a lot of other foods. So like with our steaks, we would have all of our steaks kind of held at this 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And then when you go to order it right before you eat it, we basically just take it out of the oven at 200 degrees and just sear all the sides of it, and then we give it to you. So we're not actually making everything fresh that minute for you, but it was made fresh that day. And whenever we're cooking, we make, you know, when we sear off mushrooms, we sear off like 20 pounds of mushrooms, which is about this many mushrooms. So we'll sear off a ton of them and we'll have one guy sit there for half an hour putting mushrooms in a pan, sauteing them, putting them to the side, sauteing them, putting them to the side, but we'll just keep them in the fridge and we'll just heat them really quickly for you. But it's all about that 200 degree oven to keep everything really nice and warm where the quality doesn't get hurt and you still have a nice, warm, delicious meal. So there you go. You can open your own restaurant. Shea, your house, however you want to call it. The next thing we're going to do is cook our potatoes. Cooking potatoes is so easy, but you can really mess it up and ruin someone's day when it's not done properly. And all I mean by that, mainly, is that by not putting enough salt in it, an under-seasoned potato is a crime. Have you ever had French fries with no salt on them? Just throw them in the garbage. Don't even bother eating them. So I'll teach you guys how to season potatoes properly, and we're going to, again, use the pan searing technique. So we get to try this out a couple of times. So again, back to the stove. We are going to just clean our pan out really quickly of any debris in the pan. Super easy. I have a little bit of a bounty cloth here, or a paper towel. The oil's okay because we are going to use oil again and again and again. So we're just going to put, again, a little bit of grapeseed oil in there. And then you actually want a pretty good amount of grapeseed oil in this one to sear potatoes. Again, high heat, medium high heat, so 7 or 8 on an electric stove, fairly high on your own stove. And we have our beautiful crushed potatoes here. Lots of surface area, good opportunity to get lots of oil, crispy bits, delicious pieces of potatoy goodness in you. So we're just going to make sure that this oil gets hot and is smoking a little bit. All right, so let's get into some oil lessons here. Let's keep a half an eye on our pan there because we want to make sure that our potatoes get in the pan when it's smoking. But let's talk about oils as we cook off our potatoes. So there's olive oil, grapeseed oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, sesame oil. It's like, oh my God, what oil should I use? And really, there's like so many different schools of thought. But here is my school of thought. You don't need to take this as truth. This is my truth of oil. Doesn't need to be yours. So you have olive oil. Olive oil is a finishing oil. It is not a cooking oil. You should never really sear anything in olive oil. Olive oil has a super low smoking point. So there's a couple of things wrong with that. One, all the flavor compounds die at like 80 degrees Celsius, which is not very hot at all. It starts to smoke at 300 degrees Celsius, which means that all the compounds in it go carcinogenic really quickly, and it kind of gets bad for you, and it kind of takes on like a different flavor, which isn't very pleasant. And it's expensive. So olive oil is not a cooking oil. Cooking oils have high smoke points, neutral flavors, and smoke at a really high temperature. So right now, I'm gonna go back and forth between oil and cooking potatoes. Right now we have our pan, it's smoking. Again, tip away the oil, get your potato in, put your potato in, and just repeat, repeat, repeat. Remember, keep the oil tipped away. You see how it's pooling all up at the top here, which is great. And then once you have your potatoes in, you just bring the pan back, and then the oil starts to cook the potato. So you just want to monitor this heat, maybe keep it on medium, medium-high. And we're going to take a nice big 4-pinch of salt and get it all over your potatoes. Now, potatoes can take a ton of salt to season. It's almost shocking how much salt a potato can take before you actually taste the salt on it. So don't be shy, get it around there, move it around, lots of salt. And there we go. So with grapeseed oil, grapeseed, canola, mazola, whatever you want to, whatever kind of like yellowy, lighter colored oil you want to use, it smokes at a much higher temperature. So you're looking at like, it starts to smoke at around 400, 425, where, yeah, have you ever like put anything into a pan and then it sticks and then you don't know what to do? That's because your oil or your pan wasn't hot enough. And it can be deceiving when you use olive oil because you're like, oh, it's smoking, it's hot enough. You put it in, it sticks because it's not hot enough, and it can really mess up some food. So keep that in mind. So use grapeseed oil. That's my favorite oil to sear with. And yeah, happy cooking with the proper oils. The other thing I would say is that, you know, making some of those oils, using some of those oils, they do have potential to have strong flavors like sesame oil, and at that point that's a finishing oil. Or just like if you cook with it, you just want to add like a tablespoon of it. You don't actually want to add too much of it. So keep that in mind. When making vinaigrettes, I do not use we're not going to get too much into vinaigrettes right now, but I don't use a lot of olive oil. I use mainly grapeseed oil, and then I put like a tablespoon or two of olive oil, because I personally don't love olive oil. But that's just me. So we'll go check out our potatoes here. We have our heat here on medium high. We're just going to flip them around there. This oven is so good. It is searing these potatoes so well. We already have a beautiful color on them. So we're just gonna go like that. And then we're just gonna season them a little bit more with salt, because like I said, potatoes will take a ton of salt. So there we go. And now the beautiful thing is that once these potatoes are nicely seared off, we have a 200-degree oven. We're just gonna take these, toss them in the oven. That's it. I'm back. So for everything that's in the oven, we have our steak in the oven, our apple crisp in the oven, pears in the oven, mushrooms in the oven, and potatoes. I already said potatoes. Basically, our whole meal is in the oven. It's ready to go. The only thing left we have to do is sear our steak, assemble our appetizer, and you have a 3-course meal ready to eat. So now the beautiful thing is, you can eat right now. You could eat in half an hour. You could eat in 1 hour. This is your time. You take as much time as you like. You press pause, you walk away. If you don't feel like eating right now, wait half an hour and eat in a half an hour or an hour. So don't feel pressured to keep up with me right now. You can do this at any time. And this is the great thing, and this is how you will be 11% better in your kitchen for any gatherings you have when cooking. So now that we have everything in the oven, the last thing we have to do is just plate our appetizers, sear our steak, and we're gonna be good. So what we can do first is plate our appetizers. Once that's done, we're gonna sear our steak, and then we're gonna take everything out and plate our main course. You can eat your appetizer, your main course. The apple crisp will stay in the oven, and we'll be good like that. So just go ahead and grab yourself 2 appetizer plates. They can be smaller than this. These are the ones that we have. We're gonna use the same plate for the appetizer and main course. So don't feel pressured. Nothing is wrong here. Even if you have little plates. I like to eat off my 4-year-old's plate. That's like a little plastic plate. So my wife gives me hell for it all the time. So, you know, nothing's wrong here. So I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna go grab the pears. Look at those beautifully roasted pears. They're nice and golden brown. So with these guys, I have some cores taken out of them and some of the cores already taken out, however you like to do it. With this one, I'm just going to take out the core here. I'm gonna cut it in half, and I'm just gonna use half of the pears here. You can plate this however you like. This is just a guideline. You get as creative as you like. Since this is a nice little appetizer, everybody will eat. If there's any leftover pears, that's totally cool. Save them for breakfast in the morning. Put them on your yogurt, like, Use them however you feel you'd enjoy them most. Cooked fruit. Cooked fruit is the best. So I have a little bit of pecorino here. I'm just gonna cut some slices of the pecorino. Pecorino is kind of like a Parmesan sheep cheese. So, you know, you don't need to keep it in pieces like this. You could use a peeler, doesn't really matter. Nice little cheese on there. I think this looks too perfect, so I need to break it up a little bit. I'm just going to put it all over there. And we have a little bit of greens. Now with the greens, I'm just gonna say we don't need to use all the greens here. If you like a nice salad on top, you can put the salad down first and put the greens on top. I just like finding the perfect nice little greens that we can use. Kind of garnish the pears with them. Put them on however however they feel fit here. Just stick them into the pears. Got this little guy, nice little romaine piece. Baby spinach, so we have some of this. And then we have our walnuts here. So with the walnuts, I'm just going to grab a pinch of them, kind of put it all over the plate. Look at you, you're basically at a Michelin-starred restaurant right now in your house. Jesus, roasted pears, pecorino, walnuts. I'm getting hungry, my mouth is salivating just looking at this. And then what I always like to do, lemon is your best friend. You can always finish off everything. We're gonna finish off a couple of other things with lemon as well. So what I like to do is take a cheek off the lemon. So we're gonna take a cheek off right here. And we are just going to take any seeds out. That way it's super clean lemon juice right here. And we're just going to dress the top of the pears and the greens with freshly squeezed lemon juice. You don't need to use all that lemon that you cut up, but it's nice just to put on. And then I gave you a little cup of olive oil here. And you're just gonna drizzle the top with a little bit of olive oil. See, olive oil is a finishing oil. Just get some on the side of the plate there. Looks so artistic. This is your roasted pear salad. Or roasted pear appetizer, however you wanna call it. So once you plate up both of these, I'll plate up another one really quickly here so you can just see it in fast motion and if you can't keep up. So here you go, and try to keep up with this one. Again, if you want to cut these pears in a different way, you could cut them like this. You can cut them however you feel fit, whatever is a better sized bite for you. Yeah, let's cut them all like that. Let's get wild here. You know, you could plate them all around the plate. Maybe you get real artistic and have it be maybe you get real artistic here and have it be in a little bit of an angle all over the plate. Again, pecorino. We're just gonna chip away at that. Don't feel like you need to cut it up super perfectly. Just gonna lay all this in there. Just little crumbles of this. There you go. Use as much or as little as the pecorino as you like. Again, a little bit of crushed walnuts here. Take a little bit of greens. Get your greens on there. There you go. Squeeze a little lemon juice. And just a little bit of olive oil. And there you go. Beautiful roasted pear, walnut, pecorino salad. And I am excited to eat this. So these can stay to the side. They're ready to go. You can eat them whenever you like. So we'll leave this to the side and we'll finish off our main course, plate that, and you can eat a 2-course meal and then eat your dessert. For those of you that ordered the vegetarian cauliflower kit, we are going to go over how to cook a cauliflower steak. So we're gonna get a pan on medium-high heat and a tablespoon of grapeseed or vegetable oil in a pan, nice and high heat. We're gonna make sure that this pan is the oil's going to be smoking in it, because that's going to ensure a nice sear on the cauliflower. So this is what the cauliflower looks like here. It might be, some of you might have a bit larger or smaller depending on the size of the cauliflower. We cannot genetically modify all cauliflower to look the same. Well, we might be able to, but I don't want to. So we have this nice big tranche of cauliflower. We're gonna put a nice big 3 or 4 pinches of salt in the pan, and we're gonna put the cauliflower just on the downside in there. And we're just gonna cook this for a couple of minutes while the cauliflower turns nice and brown. So you just want to make sure that the edges of the cauliflower are getting nice and brown. The oil's going to be spitting up a bit. Just like searing anything at all, you want to make sure you have a very hot pan so nothing sticks to the bottom. And we're going to take another big 4 pinch of salt and put it on top of the cauliflower, just like so. Seasoned all around. And then once we have one side nice and colored, we're gonna drop in a nice big knob of butter. And then we're gonna start to baste the cauliflower in the butter. So let's go ahead and pick up the cauliflower. Let's just check the underside of it. It's getting there. I'm gonna turn the heat down a little bit on this just so it doesn't burn on the edges, but it stays nice and golden brown. There we go. That one looks beautiful. We're gonna drop in some butter right about now. And as we do that, we're going to baste our cauliflower in nice melted butter. And so if you're a vegan, do not feel pressure to add butter. You could add a little bit of coconut oil, would be totally fine. We're just going to roast this. Foaming butter is one of the most beautiful things to cook in, as you can tell right there. So you just want to keep the butter coming down, and we're just going to gently, that piece we don't really need in there. So we're just going to gently toss all these steaks, cauliflower steaks, in butter to do like a nice butter base. I'm going to add a little bit more butter in here. Now, all of you might be concerned of, oh dear, that's a lot of butter and salt. Why do you think restaurant food tastes so good? It's the amount of butter and salt we have and everything. So you just want to move your steaks or cauliflower steaks or anything that you're butter basting to the back of the pan and tip your pan forward so all the butter runs to the front of your pan. And then from there, you just need to keep on constantly catching the butter and putting it over whatever you're butter basting. But butter basting is a beautiful thing. The butter is going to brown. The cauliflower is going to soak a lot of that up. And whenever you're about here, we can just take this right now and just throw it in the oven and just let it finish cooking or stay warm. But there you go. Your cauliflower steak is going to be good to go. And we can just keep that warm in the oven. Or you can just put this to the side and just let the brown butter continue cooking it. Look how amazing that looks. Nice foaming butter. Beautiful golden brown on there. And this also goes amazing with any kind of meat or vegetables you cook. It doesn't need to be a cauliflower steak on its own. But that being said, it is a really, really nice dish to cook. So we're just gonna leave this to the side while we finish up the rest of our stuff. And then whenever you want to eat it, you can just throw it back on the heat for a couple minutes, reheat it, and you're good to go. Roasted cauliflower steaks. And we're gonna go ahead and plate this the exact same way we plate the steak. It's just gonna be cauliflower instead of a steak. All right, so now that we have our pear salad out of the way and ready to go, we are going to take our pan. I just quickly washed out the pan that I was using for the steak, and we're gonna sear the steak off in that. So, pan, high heat, same thing for searing every time. Here is your strip loin. It should look kind of grayish maybe. Now the beautiful thing is gonna be, this is gonna be the nicest piece of steak you have ever seared in your life. I promise you. So we're gonna wait till that pan is nice and hot. Again, we're gonna put a little bit of grapeseed oil in there. Make sure there's no water in there. I'm just gonna take my rag, wipe out the water. So just a touch of grapeseed oil, like so. We're gonna start the steak, because there's a big fat cap on the steak. So there's one side that's really fatty, and there's one side with no fat. So we're gonna take the side with the fat, and we are gonna put that down in the pan. And now I'm just going to hold my steak here, because the steak isn't very hot, just so that I get a nice, even sear on the top of that fat. So we're gonna leave that, and we're just gonna sear this guy all around. So now, this steak should, it's already rested because it cooked at such a low temperature. So you don't need to rest it after you sear it. The most amazing thing about this, cooking this steak like this, is that it kind of dehydrates the outside and gets rid of all of the excess moisture on cooking the outside. So if you ever seared a steak and it kind of looks like grayish or it doesn't look that good, this is going to guarantee that you have an absolutely beautiful golden brown sear on your whole steak. So on the stovetop cam here, I'll just take a look there. Look, it's already starting to turn nice and golden brown. We're gonna get that to be a little bit more golden brown. And the whole steak all over is basically going to color with that same amount of amazingness. So just make sure, if you guys have sensitive smoke alarms, definitely have a rag on hand right here and have it ready to fan when your smoke alarm is going off, or if you're not concerned about sound like me, turn your hood fan on full blast. So I'm just gonna flip this straight over here. If you look at that, I'm just gonna pull this up to the cam. Beautiful golden brown sear on there. And if you are not excited right now because you are cooking an absolutely incredible piece of steak, I commend you, because you should be working in my kitchen cooking me steak all the time. So, like I said, if you don't cook much steak, or you've always been like, oh, I don't know how, this will definitely be one of the best steaks you will ever cook. And then once we have that done, we're just going to put on the top. We're just going to sear all the sides of this steak here. Just want to move it around. Sear the top, each side. And then once you have all of these sides seared, we are going to do something really simple here, just so you can look like a pro in a kitchen. I gave you some butter. So I gave you a little 2-ounce ramekin of butter. We are just going to take the pan off the heat for a minute, and I gave you this little ramekin of butter. We're going to take about half of that butter and just put it in the pan. It's going to sizzle and melt, and then we are going to baste our meat. So we have this beautiful bit of butter here. We're just going to take this fat and just this is called a butter bath. So this makes you feel like you are cooking in a professional kitchen. And if you look at that color on that steak, oh my God, it is so beautiful, and it smells absolutely incredible. If you have a clove of garlic, you can throw that in there. If you have a piece of rosemary, throw that in there. There's nothing wrong here, but this is just gonna make your steak so beautiful. So I'm gonna show you here. You see all the the colored on that. It's gonna look really nicely roasted. It's called the Maillard reaction.
Heads up, there's smoke in the entryway. The alarm may sound. It's going to be loud.
Thank you, Nest.
In the entryway.
So there you go. You're just gonna give your steak a nice little butter bath again. Foaming butter. I don't think there's anything more beautiful than foaming butter. So there we go. Our steak is done. We are going to take this out of the ripping hot pan to ensure that our steak does not overcook. We'll leave it on our cutting board right here. Look at that. Oh my God, it's so good. Sorry, I get excited over this stuff. So we're just gonna let that sit there and we are going to plate. We're gonna get our mushrooms out, our potatoes, and we're going to plate our main course. Everything smells so good right now. There we go. All right, so we have roasted potatoes, roasted mushrooms, a little arugula salad. This is a really classic like steakhouse dish. So we're just gonna grab a bowl like so. We're gonna put in all the arugula. Again, a nice little lemon juice. Just take the rest of the lemon there, squeeze that in. We're gonna take a little bit of olive oil. We're gonna put some olive oil on top of the salad. And a little pinch of salt. My salt's behind me here. So maybe like a 2 pinch of salt. Just get on that some of the arugula. Toss it around. You just wanna lightly mix it all together. That's good. Put half of it on one plate. I'll replate this on the other plate just to give you guys an idea of what's going on. I have some grated Parmesan cheese here. This is super high quality Parmesan cheese. Although you might be like, I don't know, that looks like Kraft. I promise you, it's not. This is the best Parmesan cheese you can get. I just don't like grating 5 kilos of it by hand at a time. So we have some Parmesan on there. Then we're just gonna take half of our potatoes. Just put that next to the salad. We are going to take our nice sharp knife. Now this is the moment of truth here. We're gonna take the steak and cut it directly in half, and I'm gonna do that because I just wanna show you how beautiful this steak is cooked. Now that is like absolutely perfect medium rare. It's juicy, that blush on it. And that is edge to edge medium rare. That whole thing is medium rare right there. So we're just gonna take that. I'm gonna slice it one more time, just so that I have 2 pieces here. And I'm just gonna put that on the plate like so. And then I'm just gonna take half of the mushrooms and I'm gonna put that on top of the steak. Just like that. And then of course, some beautiful black pepper jam. We are just going to take this and put maybe a tablespoon on top. And that is how you absolutely nail a piece of steak, roasted potatoes, mushrooms, arugula salad. I'll plate the other one up really quickly here just so you can kind of see what that looks like. There you go. We have our arugula on the plate. Bam. A little Parmesan. Steak cut in 2. Potatoes. steak. And our mushrooms. Nice tablespoon of black pepper jam on there. And there you go. So after you finish eating your appetizer and your steak here, your apple crisp is warm and ready to go. If you have ice cream, get some ice cream on that and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sure you learned a thing or two. And if you didn't, that's cool too. But I really appreciate you being here. I'll see you next time. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or in the chat box. I'm with you. So see you next time. Tell your friends. Virtual cooking class. Enjoy.